Welcome, Natalie, to the Highest Self podcast. It's so great to have you here.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I adore you. I adore the podcast, and I am just so honored to get to have this conversation with you today.
Well, it has been a long time coming, and I'm so excited that you're here. And I know we're just going to have the best conversation. But the
Yes.
first question I'd love to start with is what makes you your highest self?
Mm. What makes me my highest self is my commitment to the truth over any story that I might get caught in. And we all get caught in our stories sometimes, in our beliefs, in our judgments, in our shame, in our fears. But I am committed to the truth as my North Star. And from that place, I always feel like I am embodying my highest self.
Love that. And it's a continuous, I feel like the thing with truth is it's like one word, but it's continuously moving and shape shifting. That honoring your truth could look like so many different forms in so many stages of your life. And looking back, you may have been honoring your truth the whole time, but it looked so different. So it's like not holding on to even what one truth can look like, but letting that forms of truth shift as you get to know yourself better.
Yes, I love that nuance that you add to it because you're absolutely right. And I love that we get to be in that process of learning and growing and shape shifting and releasing. It's like releasing the things that no longer serve us. And we have the right to break commitments that we once made or vows that we once made that we are no longer aligned with. And that can be part of following our truth too. You know, I hear a lot of people talk about how they made this commitment or they had made a vow like 5 years ago and it no longer feels like their truth, but they have a fear of breaking the commitment or breaking the vow and what that says about them. So that truth and what truth is for us is always evolving. And it's more about letting it be your guide, your North Star. And from that place, just not getting stuck in the chaos around us and the stories that we can get caught up in, the
Mm-hmm.
lies that we tell ourselves, about each other, about the world.
100%. And I think that so many of us, we continue to live in that lie because we just don't know what truth feels like. And I feel like that's really why you and I are so excited about embodiment and this concept of embodiment, because you can try to think your way to truth, but you can't. It can really only come from feeling. And I know we've had so many conversations on how, honestly, like we're a bit sick of how spirituality is being taught and shared and expressed and like what it quote unquote looks like. And you have to like read these certain books and do these things. And it like is supposed to look like this specific linear process. And it's like negating what it really is about. And I think so many of us are awakening to the fact that we have been set up in these school systems that have taught us to think in this very like teacher wants me to learn this, I'm going to learn this so I can get the grade and then move on to the next thing that someone else assigns me, and moving away from information and the acquiring of information. I feel like especially when we're first learning about something, including spirituality, we want all the information, and then to move towards the embodiment of what is this actually like physically in my body? How does this show up? How do I feel with it? So can you share with us a little bit more? What is the difference and how do you see that shift happening with people from information to embodiment?
I love this conversation. And yes, you and I have like gone into the depths on this topic so many times. And I appreciate that we share that. Um, we live in a world that has been given meaning for us. Like that is how we grow up. And there is value in that. There's value in other people guiding us and teaching us about the world and how to interact with it. But there's also some things that happen in that, in terms of our conditioning and in terms of the beliefs that we start to form, because it's based on how someone else is seeing things. And when we start to be on a path, like a spiritual path, we are just so conditioned to always be seeking information and to knowing more and more and more, because that's how we were originally conditioned. And so many people's beliefs and their judgments and their fears were projected onto us. And then we start down that path. So when it comes to our spirituality, instead of, and it's the same for anything, instead of taking in more and more and more, what we really need to be stepping into in this new paradigm that we are in is learning something and then really embodying it, taking it into our emotions, our physical bodies, our energetic bodies, our spiritual bodies, feeling what in that learning, what in that system feels true for us and what doesn't feel true for us, and being able to really understand it on a deeper level. So I use the analogy of downloading a program on your computer. Like, you can download a program and it can just sit on your computer forever, or you can download it and you can actually install it. If you want to be able to use the program, you have to install it. An embodiment to me is about fully installing the program, installing the learning on every layer of our being. And when I say layers of our being, it's rooted in the koshas, the 5 layers of being: the physical, the energetic, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. So embodiment to me is the installation of the information in a world where we have been taught to just download, 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 download without actually installing it, without integrating it so that we can access that information at any point and have it be alive in us. Like, if something has not come alive in us, I don't believe we have truly learned it.
So well spoken. Thank you for sharing that. And, I found in myself, for example, I kept wanting to like read another spiritual book. Like another, now I need Osho. Now I need the Michael teaching. Now I need this. Now I need that. What if I just took one book, not even one book, one sentence, one teaching, one word, and really embodied it for the rest of my life? Even, I have an Oracle card deck and I was like pulling cards constantly. Do I need another archetype, another deity? Like, what if I just took one and I spent the rest of my life embodying that in everything? Like, that would be enough. But it's like our mind wants more. It's our ego, it wants more. And that could even apply to spirituality of like, if I read another book or I get more information or I sign up for another thing, then I'll get it. And it's like, I think what I love that you're doing, we'll share more about in the entire institute you've created around this, but it's stripping back of like what really is going to move the needle in my life, instead of what kind of feeds my ego and makes me think that I'm moving forward.
Yeah, and I love that you bring this up, because I see that as being rooted in our unworthiness or in our stories of not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that story of I'm not enough is a story that I see woven into the lives of pretty much everyone I've ever known. The women that are in our friend group, the women that we have done ritual with and deep practice with, who are powerful women doing big things in the world, we still carry this story in some area of our lives or businesses or relationships of I'm not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that quest, that hunger for always seeking more and more and more, is rooted in that feeling of not being good enough, like needing something else that will make us feel the worthiness that we can allow ourselves to fully feel if we dive within, if we allow those layers that we formed, the conditioning that we have formed, to burn away and to just be left in the truth of who we are, which is that we're worthy because we are here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you are here in this incarnation, you are walking this earth as a human being, like you are worthy and you are enough because you are here. And until we start embodying that truth, I believe we will constantly be seeking more and more and more.
100%. And I think it's what makes it tough. And I love your answer is like some of us, like myself, I love to read. I consider myself a very intellectual person. You know, we both are the Capricorns.
Capricorn,
We love
baby.
that quest. I think that quest for knowledge, right? Like that is something intrinsically within us. So how can someone who is, you know, maybe more intellectual, really easy to learn in the mind, like how can they balance honoring that side of themselves while also practicing more embodiment?
Ooh, I think it comes down to tapping into why you're learning that particular thing or taking that particular path. Because I can think about times in my spiritual journey and my awakening journey of feeling like I needed more because I didn't understand, or because I was stuck in that I'm not enough. There's a difference though when we choose to learn something because our highest self is calling us forward into our fuller expression and potential. There's a difference between our highest self saying, you know what? I'm going to put these signs on your path, and I'm going to whisper to you that this particular modality or this particular book or this particular teacher is going to unlock something in you, activate something in you, support you and guide you in living your highest path forward. There's a difference in that and how it feels in your body, and doing it because you feel a lack, like you don't know enough. And I think there's a practice that I love actually that was taught to me by one of the first teachers that I ever learned meditation from. And he would ask us to eat our decisions. So if we were making a decision, whether it was yes or no, or should I do this or should I do that, try eating each one and like put it in your mouth and let it sit in your mouth and taste it, and then swallow it and feel it like going down into your intestines, like feel it down in your belly and moving through you. How does each of those decisions feel? And it has been one of the little tools that I have used so many times, countless times, that have allowed me to feel what is true for me and what is not. What is my conditioning? Or what is a decision that I am making in fear out of a decision that I'm making in love?
So can you share an example of the type of question you would utilize that practice for?
Ooh, I've used it for pretty much every area of my life. There was a decision I was making around who I was going to publish my last book with. And it was a challenging one for me because part of me wanted a certain publisher and to be at a certain publisher. And I've worked with a few different publishers in my journey of publishing 5 books now. And there was another publisher that felt very aligned, though, with my vision for the book. I always speak to the soul of a project I'm taking on. Like if I'm writing a book, I tap into the soul of the book and I ask that book, that soul, like, what do you want to be? What do you want to look like and feel like? What do you want to transmit into the world? And when I was sitting with this decision and speaking to the soul of the book, I was really torn because on one hand, it looked like one path was going to be the path of wider distribution and the book would be everywhere and there would be a bigger marketing budget. And one of the paths felt like the path that the book wanted to take, where it maybe wasn't as much marketing, but it was more aligned in terms of how the book was going to look and feel and the overall messaging of it. And I sat in meditation and I took a few clearing breaths. And for me, anytime I'm doing any type of practice or I'm starting a meditation, even if it's in stillness or I'm starting a bit of ecstatic dance, I like to take 10 clearing breaths. And those are usually in through my mouth and out through my mouth. They're very activating. So it's like a just looping that breath 10 times. And then I ate that decision of what publisher is going to be the best publisher for this book. And it was not the one that was the more, I can look back now and see that it was the more egoic path, the path that I probably would have got more money from or bigger media opportunities from, and chose the path that was feeling really good in my body and feeling aligned with what the soul of the book was communicating to me that it wanted to be.
I love that so much. I think that, yeah, like when I think about the eating, like some decisions are so yummy, right? You're like,
Mm,
yeah, and some you're
yeah.
like, oh, like, or I think sometimes, like, especially when it comes to relationships, that's when it can be a little bit, the thing that's bad for you may be yummy. And that's maybe the time to not do this practice. But certain people, like I always like sometimes I see something like Stephen will buy some furniture. I'm like, I want to vomit when I look at that chair. And it's like I can feel that like ugh, if I were to eat it, I would just vomit everywhere. So it's like we are really tasting our experiences.
Mm.
So to think
Sometimes
of
in
it
a
like that.
relationship, we need to eat the meal together, like we would if we were going out for dinner and we were deciding on like shared dishes that we're both really excited about. We can do that in relationships sometimes too. Like
Mm.
keep the decision together of that couch purchase and
Yeah, how's it
make
tasting
sure
when
it's
it's both of
good.
us involved? I
Yeah.
love that. So for people listening and they're like, okay, I'm getting where you're going at with this embodiment. What's like the kind of like textbook definition of embodiment? If someone's like, I feel like it's a buzzword around and people don't really know what it means.
This is one of my favorite things to talk about right now, especially because my whole coaching methodology is called transformational embodiment. So, using embodiment as a practice for transforming your life and creating the dream life that you envision yourself living. So to me, embodiment is embodiment on every layer of our being. So when I talk about embodiment, I'm talking about embodiment not just on the level of physical body. So embodiment historically has been more around our physical body inhabiting this human form. And like you and I know, and many people listening here, we are so much more than our physical form. And actually, some of the earliest pioneers of embodiment and this inhabitants of this physical body have been men. And so much of our personal development, the leadership, the archetypes have been more masculine, which is what I love about this new paradigm that we are moving into. So you know this so well from your path and your studies that we have different layers of the body. And those layers I mentioned earlier are the physical, the energetic, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. So I believe that we need to be embodied, and we need to embody what I speak about in my coaching methodology is specifically transformation and embodying transformation on every level of our being. So my definition of embodiment is the expressed beingness of something, whether a thought, a belief, a desire, or a feeling. But it's not just the expressed beingness in our physical bodies, but the expressed beingness on an emotional level as well, and an energetic level, and a mental level, and a spiritual level, which is why my version of embodiment also doesn't exclude mental or mindset. And in the coaching realm, this notion of mindset being everything is something that has really been predominant. There are coaches that only focus on mindset, and that is one part of our of our being, but there are four other parts that we also have to include. So for me, embodiment is the expressed beingness of something, whether a thought, a belief, a desire, or a feeling, and on every layer of our being. So let me give you an example of that so that those who are listening can also follow along here. So if we are talking about embodiment on a physical level, this can show up as our posture. It can be the physical expression of a quality that we want to become. So, a person who wants to say embody confidence, that may come across in the way that person speaks. There might be a very clear way of speaking and tonality that is used. It can be the way that someone carries themselves, the posture that they walk into a room with. So that is embodiment on more of the physical level. The food that we fuel ourselves with can also affect the body on this level and can affect the body, as I know you talk about all the time, on an energetic level, on an emotional level. Food is a big thing that I believe we can shift for starting to transform on every one of those layers. And then we have our energy bodies, which I know people listening here are really attuned to. So the chakras are part of this energy body, and we can do clearings. We can tune into the chakra that corresponds to the trait that we want to embody. So if we want to embody more unconditional love, we might tap into that heart chakra and we might do some sort of practice around that. And then the emotional body is attuning to those feelings and attuning to the state, the feelings that we want to take on based on how we want to be living our lives. So we can then turn up the dial and we can start living as if on that emotional level. So if we want to be the embodiment of joy on an emotional level, it's like, how does joy then like go out into the world and interact? Like, how does joy feel in your body? And I love doing a little bit of hypnosis practice around this. So if we are tapping into joy, like just drop in for a moment and remember a time when you felt so full of joy. Like, remember a specific time and go back to that time, go back to that time right now and sink down into your body and see what you saw, feel what you felt, hear what you heard. Just remember those feelings of pure joy. And snap your fingers once and clap your hands once. And rub your hands together and just like take in that joy, bask in that joy, and open your eyes. So we can access these states, we can elicit these states through different processes, including hypnosis, including other embodiment processes as well. The mental body, then. So on this level, you may pose a question, and we do this in a practice that we're going to do coming up in a little bit on this podcast episode. But you can pose a question and you can go deeper into like introspective work on this level. And I love using stream of consciousness practice, which we're going to get into, and just asking questions, getting into a space of inquiry. An inquiry that I personally love doing is just the who am I inquiry from Ramana Maharshi, who is like the father of inquiry. And like, who am I really? And asking ourselves this question, especially at the level of mind, so that we're constantly questioning our reality and what's true and not true for us. And then we have these spiritual bodies as well. And at this level, like all of these other identities are just shed and the constructs fall apart. There isn't like past and future. You're just in the present moment. And all that's left is to just be that which you are. So on this level, you're not just embodying love and asking yourself like how love would show up. Like, you are love rather than loving. You are humility rather than humble. You are free instead of embodying what freedom might look like or feel like. So embodiment on this particular level, you are the essence itself. You are just the pure essence on that level, of that which you desire. So for me, that is the embodiment that we are moving into next. And transformational embodiment, which is my coaching methodology, is the process of transforming any area of your life through the expressed beingness in the present moment of that which you desire. So, transforming any area of your life through the expressed beingness right here and now of what you desire. If you can hold the vision for it, if you can embody that vision here and now, there is nothing that you cannot create in your life.
Mm. So, using an example of that, a lot of people talk about manifestation, and to manifest something, you have to feel what it is that you want to manifest. And if you can feel it, that thing will manifest. Here's the hole I find in this, and I'd love for you to explain in your perspective is like, let's say I was, struggling with my income at a stage of my life. And for example, when I was like living in India and stuff, I really had no income coming in. And I was like, oh, I really wish I could like, have financial success, this and that. So I'm going to just, feel abundant and drink this coconut and like get a massage and like do these things that feel abundant. But guess what? The money was not showing up for me, honey, So I feel like sometimes it's like there's that action step that's missing in this manifestation conversation. So what does that process look like of, let's say I want to feel more abundant and have that be my actual reality? What does that process look like of me feeling it into the action, and how is it both, action oriented and energetic?
Oh, I love this. So, when you were in that particular time in your life and you were embodying abundance, but you didn't necessarily have a huge bank account balance yet, it's not as big as it is now, with all the success that you've created in your life. Did those things that you were doing for yourself, did they still bring about the feeling of abundance? Did they still bring you joy?
I would say they would during the time, but they would then lead to the, oh my God, I can't believe I just spent that money.
Hmm. Here's the thing, it's not about the actual amount. So if there was an amount that you wanted in your bank account at the time, it's never about the actual amount. It's about what you believe having that will allow you to feel and open for you. So if you shift to be more aligned with that perspective, and it's like, what do you believe you would have in your life if you had, $100,000 extra in your savings account? It's never about the money. It's never about that specific like dollar amount. It's what you believe it will allow you to have and what you believe it will allow you to feel, which can be a great way for you to actually get down into the root of where your limiting beliefs and your blocks might be as well around something like money.
Mm.
Because we think that we want a certain amount, but then if we haven't done the deeper work, we will get to an experience of having that and we'll still feel like something is missing, or we'll still want more because we're not fully embodied in what we actually desire. So when I dive into transformational embodiment, a lot of people, and I think this is what we were getting at before, people think that you become something by, changing and transforming. And what we're talking about here is transforming as a result of first becoming, which sounds counterintuitive to a lot of people, but we're transforming our lives through embodiment and through being that in the present moment. So the being is always inspiring the doing and the things that we're doing. If we feel like we're doing a lot of things because we have a belief that we can Like I can spend all of this money and that's going to allow me to have more money. I feel like we're not actually getting to the heart of what we truly desire. So that's why I like to focus on essence instead of anything material.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to focus on the essence of abundance and the essence of freedom, the essence of joy, the essence of power, instead of like I'm embodying being a millionaire
Right.
because that's tied to something that is more in the material world. Does that make sense? Does that?
Yeah, no, what I'm receiving from that is, a lot of people focus on these practices for a specific gain, a material gain or relationship or whatever it is. But what you're about is it doesn't even matter if you manifest that $100,000 or whatever it is, because if you don't feel the abundance or security or safety or whatever it is that thing gave you, well, guess what? Even if you have it in your account, you're still not going to feel that. So go after what it is that you want to feel, and then that will inspire the actions.
Yeah. And like I and you also lived in Los Angeles before you moved. And I feel like here people want to look like they are really successful or look like they're a millionaire by buying a really expensive car that maybe they couldn't actually afford, but they bought it anyway because they felt like they would look a certain way. I met someone once in LA that was living in a car because they bought a really expensive car to look more well off and successful going into work. But actually, the car payments were so much that they couldn't even afford rent for a home to live in. So that's like a shadow side of that whole like fake it till you make it mentality that I think I've just heard perpetuated so much, especially in the personal development space. And when you get into the essence of abundance, like for me the essence of abundance is not about any particular, it's not about a particular number. It's about a feeling of freedom. It's about a feeling of abundance in every area of my life. Like I have an abundance of friends, I have an abundance of beautiful connections in my life, I have an abundance of opportunities and doors that are always opening that lead me down paths that sometimes I couldn't even think of on my own. Like life is always surprising me and delighting me. I have an abundance of amazing like surprises and signs that come into my life every day. Life is always speaking to me. And when I live from that place, I don't I don't care about that number. That slips away because I'm embodying the essence. And most of the things that I do here in LA that make me feel most abundant have nothing to do with, we don't even spend money on it. It's moments like the moment that we had in a ritual circle a few weeks ago where we were all so deeply connected and just so intimate with each other and so like vulnerable and connecting and like really seeing each other and just feeling so alive. Like to me, those are the moments where I feel so abundant, and it has nothing to do with any amount of money.
I think that's really important to say because almost like this word abundance has become like just another word for financial abundance. And they're two, different things. Financial, it could be a subsect of overall abundance. And I think that we realize, you know, like I think it's this interesting journey of like we realize okay, money is not going to create happiness, so we go on this spiritual journey. Then you go on the spiritual journey, you're like, oh, but I want the crystals and I want the retreat and I want the this and I want the that. And it's like, how do you live in both? Like how do you desire greater things in your life and embody what it really is going to bring you in the now before waiting for that thing to show up in your life?
Yes. And it's like feeling embodied, feeling content right now with your life. Like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm learning beautiful lessons. I'm grateful, like looking around and just stepping more into gratitude for everything that you have around you. And you will start creating more of that.
Mm.
And then you start living from a place where you're just so grateful for everything that you have, and you are content here and now while still holding a higher vision. You can have both. You can have the depth, the presence in this beautiful moment that you have, that you are alive, like we are here in this moment living and breathing. And there's there's like nothing more that I need in this moment. I'm content, and I'm still holding this higher vision for my life, that is something that I feel is like imprinted in me, and that calls me forward toward it.
Mm. I love that. And with embodiment, I feel like it's just this like sometimes easier to pick up on someone else than it is in ourselves. Like certain people, you're around them and you can just feel like using the example of like a shaman or like a tribal person, like something about their energy typically is very grounded. It's very anchored. It's rooted. It knows what it is. They might not even speak the same language as you. They might not even know how to read written word, but something about them is so embodied that they don't need to read all of the books. They're there. And then you meet people that the voice is quite nasally and it's like really heady and like and then this and that and there's a beauty in that as well. So how can we kind of pick up on what embodiment feels like by observing it in other people, and then how can we turn that on ourselves so we could see kind of how embodied we're coming off to other people?
Yes. I love all the questions that you are asking me. I just love talking to you, like whether we're going for a walk along the beach or we're like in Mexico
I just
together.
have all these thoughts. I'm like, thank God I get to ask you these right now.
I just love every moment that I get to be talking to you, my friend. So, I even forget. I got so excited for a moment, I forget where we were going with that.
So how can you pick
Yes,
up on
I got
embodiment
it.
cues in others and then on yourself?
Yes. My dating life was like such a dojo for me in this respect. I, coming out of a very long relationship I was in, more than 10 years, I was like on my own for the first time in my adult life, and I hadn't really dated. And I felt like there was work I needed to do in myself to prepare myself for partnership, to prepare myself for my soulmate. And what dropped in as like a good fast track path for me to catch up on some of those like dating years that I may have missed, and the lessons that can come from being in a high growth relationship or being in relationship with different people, I decided I was going to go on at least 100 dates while I was in this process of being single. Now, a lot of those dates were very quick. Like sometimes they were organized, a few in a day. I would meet someone for like a quick breakfast coffee, like 20 minutes, and then see if there was something else there. And I can usually tell pretty quickly. And what that experiment allowed me to do over a couple year period, before all of that work in that dojo prepared me to be with the beautiful partner that I am with today, I really started to understand on a deeper level how everybody is medicine for us in some way, and everybody is mirroring something back to us that is either a trigger or that is activating and unlocking something in us that we also have access to. So one of the paths that I've studied is the path of Tantra. And what I love about Tantra, it gets really miscommunicated these days, and people make it all about sex, which is so not the case. There are some beautiful sexual energetic practices that you can do in that path, and it is about sexual energy. But deeper than that, it's about totality. It's about accepting the whole and accepting every part, accepting the paradoxes of our lives. Like, I can be a fierce warrior goddess on the same day that I can also embody like a gentle, grounded, very like quiet, uh, way of being. Like I can be all of those things at the same time. That is the embodiment of totality. And I believe that that's the path that we're walking in this new paradigm. Like, can we accept and not shame or not judge any part of ourselves? So in this dating dojo, I got to meet so many people, and the ones who would trigger me, I got to ask myself, what part of me is being triggered right now? What part of me is being triggered by that particular behavior or those particular words? And what does that part of me need right now? Does that part of me need something that I can give myself right now that I don't need anybody else to give me? Or is that person activating something in me? Are they unlocking a part of me that I haven't got to meet yet? Like strangers are people who can unlock new parts of ourselves. Like that's my relationship to strangers. Like what part of me gets to be unlocked, gets to be discovered through this relationship? And I think that is where we are going. So it's being able to see everyone as a mirror, that shaman that in their presence, without any sort of language, just their way of being, what does that make me long for? When I feel that depth and that groundedness, what am I longing for in my heart? And where is that groundedness in me that I can tap into? And what are the practices? What are the ways of being, the things that I can do in my life that give me more access to that? So we are all each other's mirrors if we allow ourselves to step into the arena, to step into that level of learning and acceptance of the whole of every part of ourselves without shame or judgment.
Yes, I think that sometimes it's like that trigger is something that's inside of you, and sometimes it's something that you really don't want to be like. Like I think that sometimes we like are like, oh, whatever you don't like about other people is an aspect of yourself. But I think that sometimes it's like maybe a part of you, or you really don't want it to be a part of you, like.
Yes. And that's where we create a lot of separation.
Mhm.
We create separation when we are triggered. There's a part of us that's triggered that is unintegrated that we haven't owned within ourselves. And we start to judge that part of ourselves. And if we want to be like fully embodied and living from our wholeness, we have to be able to meet every aspect of ourselves with love and forgive ourselves for believing that that part of ourselves was wrong, or that part of ourselves that we shamed. Because when I'm judging somebody else and I'm saying, what am I judging specifically? I can almost always find where I've done that as well. So if I'm judging someone because they haven't been communicative with me, and I'm like starting to go into a story of maybe that person doesn't like me and they're not getting back to me, I can say, okay, wait a second. Where have I been busy or been in something and I haven't been fully communicative? Or where have I maybe made somebody else feel excluded? Where have I hurt other people? And owning that that's part of this human experience as
Mhm.
well, and being able to give myself love and compassion around the ways that I haven't showed up at my best, because then we have a lot more grace and compassion for other people as well. And that's how we get to start healing in the collective, is to be able to be like, okay, that that action that someone did, that hurt me, and I've hurt other people too. How can I show up with love from a place of love here? And it's easier said than done.
Yes, 100%. We're always, I think when we take responsibility of like we always were that person to someone else, then we, immediately have so much more compassion. And that in itself is an embodiment practice of like putting yourself into a perspective of you or that person creating that. So when it comes to being more embodied, I think a lot of us, especially as women, are feeling the call to be more embodied, to be less in our headiness, brain, theoretical, masculine side, but it feels so foreign to us, especially when we've been taught to not be. We've been taught not to be emotional. Like I remember my dad's mantra was be rational, not emotional. That was literally every day he would tell us this. So it's like how from the time that you're a kid, you're told to not cry, not be sensitive, not this, not that. And now you're trying to access this part of you that has been shut down for so long. How do we begin this journey?
Mm. Can we do a little practice?
Yes.
Maybe I'm feeling a few different practices here. So, one of the ways that I love to explore some of the things that are playing out in our lives right now is it's called a theater of self-discovery practice in my transformational embodiment coaching method. And it's this process of sitting in the theater, watching your life playing out on screen and just observing the things that are working in your relationships, in your job, in every area of your life, just watching what's playing out and observing like what's working, where am I feeling joy, where am I being triggered, and to just start to observe what's happening there and to start to track your triggers. So this is a process you can take into the next couple weeks. And then I'm actually going to guide you through my feel, heal, reveal practice in a moment. But you can take the feel, heal, reveal practice and you can apply it to different things that are triggering you. And that starts by just having the awareness, because when we have the awareness, we get to make different choices. So if you're triggered, just take a moment to write it down, have a little trigger tracker notepad, and then also start this practice of jumping into being in a theater and watching that particular situation on a screen and just noticing what you observe. How are you showing up? How is your way of showing up contributing to the problem? Or how is your way of showing up supporting a solution and resolution and completion around something that might be difficult? And this part of the practice is just about expanding your awareness. And from that place, you can start to see where there's work for you to do, where there are growth opportunities for you. So if something is triggering you, there's a growth opportunity there for you. And that is what we're going to dive into next. So one of my favorite practices, and it's a pretty simple one, and it's woven into the feel, heal, reveal practice that we're going to get to in a moment. And a big part of it is stream of consciousness writing. Some of you may have heard of this practice before. Stream of consciousness as a writing practice has been used by some of the greatest minds and creatives in history. It's a practice that is at least like 150 years old. And in this practice, we are clearing the way. We're first clearing our channel, and then we're letting whatever wants to flow through without us getting stuck in the mind or starting to overthink it. So what stream of consciousness is it's writing. So you're going to have a notebook and a pen, and you're going to free flow write and answer two questions that I'm going to guide you through. And you can free flow write without taking your pen off the paper. If you're stuck on a word, you simply repeat that last word over and over and over again. The writing can be super sloppy. It often is. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have any grammar or punctuation.
Can we do it on our phones and our notes?
It is much harder on the phone because when you're writing on your phone versus when you're writing on paper, you actually have more creativity that is unlocked writing on paper. So if you ever struggle, like if any of you write blog posts or are creating in that way, if you ever get stuck like sitting at a screen and writing on a computer, try going to a notebook and writing out your ideas and feel how that flows and feel the difference in the flow. I definitely feel a big difference in it. But I also understand that we have work to do at computers. So when I'm doing stream of consciousness practice, I always take those 10 clearing breaths first. And the way this practice goes is you're going to sit in meditation and you're going to bring a question in. And first, I'm just going to share with you this stream of consciousness practice. Then I'll guide you through the feel, heal, reveal full practice. So you're sitting in meditation and you can bring any question into the mind. And you're going to take 10 clearing, looped breaths in through the mouth and out through the mouth with your notebook and a pen close by so that you can pick up the pen at the end of your clearing breaths. So we take 10 clearing breaths together. You can make them audible. And then you can pick up your pen and pose a question. It could be, what does my highest self want me to know? What do I need to see right now that I'm not seeing? And then we open our eyes and we put pen to paper without taking the pen off of the paper for at least 2 minutes, and just allow your highest self to stream what it wants to share with you. Stream, stream, stream. So that's stream of consciousness practice. It's in my rituals journal and my book. It's a practice that I do every single day. Every single
And
day.
people can press pause right now if they want to do it. Press pause and stream of consciousness it right now,
Absolutely.
and then come back to the conversation.
Yeah, and I'm going to guide you through the full feel, heal, reveal practice that includes stream of consciousness so that you have different questions. And some of the questions I love to bring into practice are that one, what does my highest self want me to know right now? That's one of my go-tos. Another question I love is, what's holding me back right now? Where am I creating self-imposed limits right now? Where am I responding from fear instead of from love? What is my highest path forward right now? What is my best next step? I bring those questions into stream of consciousness when they arise. And it's a way to feel into it evokes a lot of feelings, and the practice of just not taking pen off the paper also gets you out of your mind because it's all flowing through you. As soon as you start thinking about grammar though, or you start thinking about the way your writing looks, or you start thinking about the word, stop there, because then you've gone into your mind and it's no longer a free flow stream of consciousness that's coming from your highest self. Does that make sense?
Whenever I'm writing my books, this is exactly how I feel. It's just that like I can't, for me, I am typing because I can like the thought can come through so much faster when I'm typing, but I'm just like, it's like a channel that just goes through me. And I'm even just looking out the window, but my fingers are like, blah, 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 blah. And then like, I'll feel like, okay, that channel is complete. And sometimes it will come back and other times I'll step away and just like wait for that feeling. And oftentimes for me, I notice that feeling comes after a conversation, like after I'm having a conversation with someone that, your thoughts start stirring up. So it's after conversations like this, or if I'm on a walk or exercising in nature, that's typically when they start conjuring up.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing stream of consciousness practice in nature, by the way, is like the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
So our listeners are now ready for this feel, heal, reveal practice. Now, this practice, I usually guide my clients through it over 90 minutes. So we're going to do a shortened version of the practice today, but I know that it's going to support you in starting to shift something that's maybe been a block for you, or a belief or a judgment that you've been holding on to. So you will need a notebook for this, and you'll need a pen. So you can pause this episode at any moment where you need a little bit more time in the process. And I'm going to share it with you in a way that will make it easy for you to move through this process on your own, even after the episode. And as you start seeing things come up, as you're tracking some of those triggers, as we talked about. So, the very first thing that you're going to write down is a story or an occurrence or a reoccurrence that is happening in your life. So it could be the last thing that triggered you. It could be something that when you sit in that theater seat and you are looking at what is happening in your life playing out on a screen, it could be the thing that you feel is keeping you stuck or holding you back. It could be a space where you are playing small. So, what is that story or that occurrence? Like, a few examples are, I always doubt myself. My business is not growing. My career is not where I want it to be. I feel really sad about not having met my soulmate yet. I have a lack of focus and I feel like I always procrastinate. These are some of the ones that came up in one of the groups that I last led. So you're writing down a story, an occurrence, a reoccurrence that's happening in your life, and pick the one that feels most charged for you, that feels most emotional for you, so that you can shift something that's going to create space for you to really reclaim your power and to feel a lot more clear coming out of it. So, the next part of this is the feel part. Feel. We need to bring that story into our body and we need to feel it. We need to let it come to life inside of us, and we need to feel where it is in our body. So, what are the feelings that are associated with that story? And you can write these down, 1 or 2 words, and try to get really specific. So I had a situation last week where I just kept saying, I'm feeling really sad. And sad wasn't quite specific enough. The actual feeling was despair when I went deeper into it. And the more we can actually label clearly articulate the feeling, the better the chance we have of being able to find it in our body and also clear it so that we create space to feel something else, something more empowering. So once you've named the feelings associated and you've written down 1 or 2 words, I want you to now move into a practice, and we'll do this with some music, of finding that feeling in your body. Where does that feeling or those feelings live inside of you? Where do those feelings live inside of you? And I want you to just start breathing into that space. And if you feel called, you can move into that space. If you want to dance from that place in you, and just give yourself a few minutes to feel in your body and in your energy field, in your emotions, where that story is in you. Allow yourself to feel anything coming up and feel it without judgment. Allow yourself to feel it all. How old is this part of you that is feeling this way? When do you first remember feeling this way? And when you are embodying this feeling, this story, how are you showing up in your life, in your career, in your relationships? Feel it all. Keep breathing into that feeling. And now we move right into the heal part of this practice. What do you need to forgive yourself for? And can you speak to those feelings in you? And can you allow them to have voice? Allow those feelings and the energy of those feelings living in you. Can you give them voice? What do they want you to know? What do they need to express that has not been expressed before? And can you accept and love and have compassion for all that these feelings are sharing with you and expressing? Just have a dialogue with that part of you. And going back to the question, how old is this particular part of you and these feelings? And can you allow that feeling, can you allow that energetic imprint in you to become your younger self? You at that age where you first remember feeling this energy, these feelings. What did that younger version of you need? What was needed that you maybe were not receiving from someone else? And whatever that was, can you give this to your younger self now? Can you give yourself the love, the compassion, the gentleness, the guidance, the freedom that was maybe needed then? And as you do, that love and that compassion and that acceptance that you are pouring out onto this younger part of you and onto these feelings starts to dissipate the feelings. And that child, that younger part of you, dissolves into pure white light and integrates within you. Just feel the shift in your body. Breathe into that space. Breathe into the spaciousness that you're feeling from allowing yourself to dive into this practice, to feel and to heal something that you've maybe been holding on to for a very long time. And you can take any movements that feel good. You can shake it out. You can dance. You can move. You can breathe into that spaciousness for a few minutes. And in this space, what is wanting to be revealed to you? What is wanting to be revealed to you? What does your highest self want you to know? What is available to you now that you have allowed yourself to feel those feelings, to heal some of those past stories? What is wanting to be revealed? It could be a new awareness. It could be untapped potential. It could be an idea. It could be a part of you that is yours to reclaim now. And I invite you, when the time feels right, to move into a stream of consciousness practice for a couple minutes around this revelation. What is wanting to be revealed? Don't stop writing. Just let the words flow without thinking about them. Let it all out. Let your highest self speak through that pen to you. And you can put down your pen whenever this practice feels complete for you, or you can keep going if there is more and more coming out. You definitely want it to feel complete before you stop. Beautiful, beautiful work. Thank you for going there. Thank you for diving within, diving into those layers that can sometimes hold us back. And like I said, this is usually a much longer process, but it gives you a little taste of it. And you can play with that process a little bit. One of the ways I like to play with it is sometimes when doing the healing process, if you feel like that part of you is, if it's very clear to you what part of your life that comes from, if it's very clear to you that this is from a specific age, this is a belief you've held about yourself for a long time, you can stop in that process and you can speak to your child by using your non-dominant hand in the stream of consciousness practice. So you can have that dialogue with the inner child and you can say, what did you need that you weren't receiving? What did you really need? Or what can I give you? And then with your non dominant hand, for me, it would be the left, you can respond as the child. Your non dominant hand actually connects you to that part of your brain. And you will be mesmerized by how that dialogue flows when you're switching back and forth between your dominant hand being who you are now, the adult, asking your non dominant, your child, what they need or needed that you can give them now. So that's a fun way that you can play with this process and stream of consciousness. And you can do this in relationship too. You can do this around some of the things that maybe keep you blocked in your relationship? What are the stories that you're telling yourselves that keep you from a deeper experience of love? You can do this with your clients. You can do this in ritual circle with your friends. This stream of consciousness practice is a really beautiful practice. And then this process of feel, heal, reveal allows you to really move through a process of being able to actually clear a block or a belief or to heal shame and judgment so that you allow yourself to feel something else and so that you give yourself the space for your highest self to be able to work through you in new ways. So if you have any questions about that process, like feel free to reach out on Instagram at Natalie Macneil. I'm happy to answer them. And I would also love to hear from you, like what came up for you during the practice. And if you have a story to share, I would also love to hear about it.
I loved that. What an incredible practice for those who are watching later on the YouTube
What
video.
came
I
up
was
for
like
you?
spiraling around and
I
moving
know
and
you were
dancing.
really
I was, yeah. So for me, it's this, the body feeling that I feel is like my neck, my shoulders, this feeling of responsibility. And the issue that I am moving through in my life right now is feeling like I have to do everything. And then if I don't do it, it won't get done. And I can't, feel like this, like rested and supportive because I'm really still kind of doing everything in my business and still very involved and haven't really found that like right hand person or team that I can like fully trust without me still needing to check on everything and finding so many things that have proven to me I can't trust. So it's that feeling of like heaviness, of tenseness. It feels like when you're boxing, when you're just kind of like guarding and punching back. It's like a combative of like, okay, what's going to come next? What's going to come next? Like that's sort of like the state that I have felt in the past couple months too, especially with like, things are growing, which are so great, but it's like a combative energy. So I was moving through creating more flow, more circular, more feminine energy into my life. And that's why my movements were very like strengthening and lengthening. The part of me that was the child was the part of me, the eldest memory I could remember from that was, my parents didn't speak English when I was a kid. So when I would do my homework, my mom didn't understand what the homework was. So I had this, I think at that time I created the story of I need to do all my work by myself because no one here can help me with it. My dad could do math, but definitely not like English or anything like that. So from the time I was a kid, I was the one who would like not only do my own homework but read all of the things for her and translate for her to sign it. And I think a lot of like bilingual kids grew up like that. And then the other like really big example of feeling like this was when I started to blog, like a little more than 10 years ago. So it's like that feeling of I have to figure out everything. I have to figure out how to make the blog, how to do the SEO, how to do this, how to do that. And then the other memory I had was being on MySpace. Like on MySpace, it's very like you have to figure out, okay, what code can I do for the music? And thought that was a little bit silly because it's not like a traumatic thing to do, but it was like, again, perpetuating that feeling of I have to do everything alone. So my stream of consciousness was I am supported. I no longer have to operate from the story that I have to do it all myself. I can relax, surrender, and feel supported. I was kind of leaning back in my chair and feeling that feeling of like I'm leaning back and I'm being caught. I don't have to hold it all. I can trust. My inner artist can come out. I can be creative, dancing, artistic again. I no longer have to hold in all that energy. I don't have to be on top of everyone. I don't have to take shortcuts. And just releasing that scarcity story that really is holding me back. And that scarcity story of like, oh, well, I'll just do it myself. And I think a lot of us entrepreneurial people like have this like do it all attitude, but it's also, to me, what I realize, it's like this scarcity. So I'm like, I have the money to pay for a top level team and support. That's my mantra that I am telling myself. And I want to pay people who are worthy of what they are doing and experience that support of when I invest in someone's full, complete worth who can hold that energy and whose dharma is in alignment with holding that energy. So this was a very transformational practice for me.
Wonderful. And one of the final questions that I like to ask is how can you embody that revelation here now, which you just touched on already without me even asking the question. And that is, you can choose with this awareness that you have, you can choose to bring on that support, to bring on someone whose dharmic path is aligned with yours, who would be just the most supportive, amazing right hand for you to have as you continue to share this work. Like, I had this vision of you, watching you in your process of like having others like really lifting you up, and I could see others like lifting up your throne, and I could see your queendom expanding as you were inviting that support in, because other people are going to be able to take your work into places that maybe you don't have the capacity for, which is so beautiful. And thank you for playing in this space with me. And for everyone who is listening, like if you want the full guided experience of this and you want to go all the way in, that is available to you. We're going to give you a URL shortly on this podcast. And when you opt in at that URL, you're going to be able to experience a whole like live event with me where you get to do the whole practice if it's something that resonated with you today.
I love it so much. So, a lot of people right now listening to this podcast, they are in career transitions, or maybe they're questioning, is this the right path for me to be on? They're wanting to move more into doing like this more spiritual embodiment type of work, but they're not really sure what that could look like. And I know you have a new incredible institute that you have created that really teaches people on how to be a coach in this type of work. So what does it look like to be a transformational embodiment coach? What does that mean for you in your career, working with clients, working in corporations? Tell us what our futures could look like.
Yeah, so at the Embodiment Coaching Institute, we have just launched our 6-month ICF accredited transformational embodiment coach certification. And it's really the only multi-modality program of its kind. This is coaching evolved, and it is for the truth seekers, the deep divers, the transformers, the trailblazers of this wild, messy, beautiful life, who know that they are here to make a difference in the world. So the people who choose to do this certification are people who know that they are here to create a new paradigm. They're the ones who feel like they don't quite fit in and belong in this world. And it is because we are here to create a new kind of world and a new paradigm. And that's what we're doing in this particular certification. So it's a multimodality path of being trained in coaching and becoming a certified professional coach, also getting your certificates in breathwork for coaches, NLP, neuro linguistic programming for coaches, and emotional freedom technique, EFT, also known as tapping, for coaches as well. And we dive into a number of other practices in the transformational embodiment method. So, this is for people who want to take this as their path forward, for the people who feel like this is part of their dharma, to be transforming lives and transforming lives in an embodied way, to be able to lead practices or circles, to be able to lead meditations, to be able to hold people in deeply transformative processes that completely change their lives. It's for people who work with other people in management positions as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be for someone who wants to create a whole business around coaching and around doing transformational work, although that is definitely a path you can take. It's also for people who work with people at businesses. And I believe that 2020 has revealed a lot to us about what we want from our lives and about what we want to create in the world. And I know that a lot of us have been feeling pulled forward. And this is a time for you to really answer that calling of your soul. And if that calling for you is toward being a coach or being a transformational teacher, leading people through any kind of transformational experience, facilitating that, facilitating retreats, then I would invite you to check out our transformational embodiment coaching certification and consider joining us in the first cohort. It's 6 months, twice a week sessions. We have amazing bonuses to help you build your business in this as well, and to become a masterful facilitator and coach. We have a whole mentoring program where you receive specific feedback to improve your skills. You'll also be able to get your first level of credential with the International Coach Federation, which is the gold standard in the coaching industry, and truly so much more. Like, I believe that everything we've been talking about, like the abundance, the love, the joy, the purpose, the power, the pleasure that we are seeking, and that your potential, your future clients are seeking, it's within you, it's within them. And our methodology helps to really unlock it all and is truly part of this new paradigm if you feel called to that path.
And I think that so many of us, we are moving towards more of the practices. It's like you could have explained to us what it is, but in us going through the practice, it's like we got that firsthand experience. And so many people now, they're wanting to dive into like letting people, like whether you are in a corporate setting and letting people feel what feels like a yes or no to them, or if you're even a meditation teacher, or maybe you do yoga or something like that, but you're noticing for people to really transform, they need to come to these conclusions themselves. Health coaches, life coaches, again, I remember how frustrating I felt as a health coach. I'm telling you exactly what to do. I'm telling you your problems. I'm telling you what to eat, but they weren't doing it. So having someone go through these practices, and then you're holding the space for them to tell you exactly what it is they need to do and work through. And they're having this aha moment. And really, you just held the space for them and allowed them to ask themselves the right questions.
Yes. And a huge part of the program is like you dive so deep into transforming your own life and becoming your own best coach first and foremost, so that you can embody truly being a masterful coach and being able to hold that space. Like, we teach you dozens of different practices and tools and coaching models that you will also learn how to become masterful at facilitating. And our Monday sessions are always the teaching sessions in the program. And then on Thursdays, we have our embodiment sessions where you're diving deep into practice. You're learning how to facilitate practices so that you can build your own programs or build your own group experiences or retreats or your own one-on-one coaching offer. And you'll be practicing. And the practice is really what allows us to become unconsciously embodied over time. So there are a lot of things that we are unconsciously not embodying that's not serving us. And then when we start to do the deeper work, we get to choose what we actually want to be embodying. And at first, that becomes conscious embodiment. We have to think about it, we have to practice it until it can move over into being fully installed in us, which is the unconscious embodiment of something we truly desire. And we move through those cycles of learning, but also deeply embodying what you are learning. So it is a very cool program and leads you to be able to coach and help people transform across pretty much any area of their lives. So, as a certified professional coach, you will have the level of mastery and confidence to be able to coach people in any space. You can use it to become a life coach, an executive coach, a relationship coach, a career coach, a wellness coach, a business coach. There are many different paths when you choose to become a certified professional coach, because you're learning to create change in any area, which is I I can't even put into words how excited it makes me to see
Mm.
so many amazing people stepping into doing this kind of work, because I know that it's the deeper healing work and transformational work that is going to change the world. And we change the world like one person at a time.
Exactly. And I think that so many of us, now the word life coach has become, very normal. Like, I think even our like parents and adults are like, oh, there's like, maybe I should hire a life coach. And how do you take that a step deeper of noticing what the body has to say? And I think that these practices would really resonate with someone who might not be open to like spirituality per se, like someone who maybe wouldn't go to meditate or wouldn't do Ayurveda or something. But every single person can, close their eyes and just feel how their body feels and then write from that space. So you're actually like activating people without them even knowing it.
Yes. Yes. And that's why, whether you choose to build a thriving coaching practice around you being a certified professional coach, or you take this work into other areas of your life, you get to be that transformational leader wherever you choose to plant yourself, whether
Mhm.
you're working for someone else or you're working for yourself. That is a path that you get to choose. And no matter what, you're transforming lives if you feel called to do that as part of your dharma.
So people become a certified professional coach, or they can call themselves a transformational embodiment coach.
That's right. So it is the Transformational Embodiment Coaching certification. So that's the methodology of coaching. The Certified Professional Coach is a certificate that you'll be able to bring to the International Coach Federation so that you can get your coaching credential. And the benefit of having that coaching credential versus doing a program where you will not be able to go through and get your credential is that it just opens so many more opportunities and doors for you if you want this as your career. So ICF credentialed coaches make more money. You're more likely to get hired by a company if you do have that credential. It's the highest standard in the coaching industry, and in an industry where there are a lot of people calling themselves coaches, but without having that mastery, that training, that confidence to be able to support someone in transforming anything. There can be limitations in that, whereas when you go forward with the credential, you are so confident in any space, and that's what companies want as well. They want to know that you've gone through a training where you have the necessary practice and experience, and your skills have been tested, and that those people are going to be able to bring that into their organizations. So I highly recommend the credentialed path for those who are considering this work. And that is just an option too. So while you will become a certified transformational embodiment coach, and you can take that into so many areas of your life, you also have that option of doing the credential, which is a beautiful option to have.
That's so great to know. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we have a really special offer for you guys listening. I know so many of you are really looking for your dharmas right now and wanting to bring embodiment and spirituality and inner knowing out into the world. And that's exactly when Natalie told me about this. I was like, oh my gosh, the listeners will love this. So we teamed up to offer you a $1,000 off discount, y'all. $1,000 off discount when you apply over at nataliemacneil.com/Sahara. And we also have some goodies available for you on this if you're wanting to do her workshop, like she mentioned, the full deep dive workshop. She has upcoming live ones as well. So you'll be able to see what's going on there whenever you're listening to this. The next class starts in January, but if you're listening to this after January, I'm sure they'll be up and running again soon. So if you're wanting to learn more, just get more information, or if you're just ready to sign up, get your $1,000 off discount, get in that cohort in January and become started as a transformational embodiment coach, this is for you. So head over to nataliemacneil.com/Sahara. You will find everything there. And I'm super excited. And as a gift as well, I'll be offering my 12-week Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type program too. So this is my like flagship Ayurveda program that I'm not even offering for sale anymore. So the only people who get this are actually people who sign up for transformational coaching. So you'll be able to add in the Ayurvedic elements, specifically with nutrition, digestion, health, all of these, koshas are actually an Ayurvedic term as well. So integrating the koshas and going deeper into Ayurvedic wisdom. So that will be another free bonus available for you when you sign up for the course. And I'll have that link in the show notes. It's Natalie, Natalie, Mac, MAC, Neil, NEIL.com/Sahara. There's a direct link in the show notes and you'll be able to find everything there. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, Natalie.
This was just divine. I am so just high on life right now, and I adore you. I'm so grateful to have you as a close friend. I'm so in awe of all of the incredible things that you are doing in the world and doing to inspire people and motivate them to be living from and embodying their highest selves. And I'm so proud of you. So grateful for you. I love you.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. You always inspire me every single time I speak about you. And what I love is you really, we didn't even go through all of your past and your history, but you embody and went so deep into the business and understanding all of that stuff. And I'll share more about that in the intro of this podcast, but you have totally brought in the feminine and the embodiment. And I just so resonate with that because I'm someone too who has been going through that journey and is continuing to forever go through that journey. So thank you for really showing us that it's possible to be both, to be analytical, business minded, get shit done, pitta, ass to the grass, and playful, sensual, embodied, silly, radiant, and just being an example that we really can be at all. I'm so grateful to have you in my life.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening, sending you love, beaming you love from Los Angeles to wherever you are in the world.
Namaste.